It's the Brad and John Show.
Brad and John Show for Thursday. Is it really Thursday? It is Thursday, isn't it?
It is.
Holy
It's
cow.
Valentine's Eve.
Boy, this week's
And
just flown by.
you have some women around town that you need to send Valentines to. I can think of two you've interacted with this week that are looking for a little love and affection from you, Brad.
One of them being, you made fun of this yesterday. I'm not going to mention her name, although John did not directly yesterday.
I did not. I did nothing of the sort.
You did. Okay. How do I start this? John started this. Was it Monday or Tuesday? We had the story about the thing with KWMU.
I think it was Tuesday. Yeah, the news came out Monday, and then we talked about it on Tuesday.
Okay. The story is that the University of Missouri, the Board of Curators, is essentially going to divest themselves of their radio stations. Now, the interesting thing about this is, and I find this so pretentious, this is like, and John, you can disagree or agree with me. The article was on St. Louis Public Radio, STLPR.org, okay? And it was written by, what's her name again? Jo Mannies?
Jo Mannies, yeah.
Jo
I
Mannies.
think she pronounced the last name Mannies, but it looks like Mannies, yeah.
And they footnoted the article by saying, this was not written by a staff member. Essentially, they're saying, we're not going to write an article about ourselves. We're going to an outside source. Now, the interesting part of that is, Jo Mannies, how do I say it again?
Just Mannies, yeah.
Jo Mannies, okay. I believe she might have been a Globe Democrat employee. I know she was a Post-Dispatch employee. And the Post-Dispatch, a bunch of them retired from the Post-Dispatch, and they started this thing called the St. Louis Beacon. Wasn't it STLbeacon.com or something like that?
Yeah, or org, yeah, St. Louis Beacon, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And it was a bunch of retired news people who decided to keep reporting on the news. For some crazy donkey reason, and I say that with all due disrespect, they hired the entire staff of the Beacon to work at KWMU. Am I kidding, John?
Yeah, I think most everybody went over there, but let's not forget that includes Jason Rosenbaum.
Was he at the Beacon?
Hold on a minute. No, let me correct myself. He wasn't at the Beacon. I don't know. I need to double check that. The years run together. You're right. They did acquire the St. Louis Beacon, and it became less of a joint venture and more of they swallowed up the Beacon. Right. And essentially the Beacon people were working for how much money were they making, John? What was that amount of money they were making working for no money? How much money were they? What were the paychecks? What did the paychecks say? 0.0. And now, I don't know. I don't think at the Beacon they were making any money, but okay. I don't know. So all of a sudden they're now employees of the state of Missouri, and they get, another pension because they got the pension through the Post-Dispatch or their 401k or whatever. Okay, so Jo Mannies, whatever you want to call it. And by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt. Rosenbaum was at the Beacon. He wrote a lot of pieces for the Beacon. Gosh, these years all run together. Go ahead, though. Okay, so they hired them all, and I'm thinking to myself, why would you do that? Why? And the interesting thing for me is, once again, KWMU is owned by the University of Missouri. Wouldn't it make more sense to hire a bunch of Mizzou grads, a Mizzou J-School grads, and say, hey, now that you've graduated from our fine institution in Columbia, where we have this wonderful journalism school, we are going to employ you in a position where you are going to practice your journalistic skills and work for a real journalist operation. Wouldn't you think that would make more sense than hiring a bunch of retired people from the Post-Dispatch, John? That assumes that a bunch of people coming right out of college would want to work at St. Louis Public Radio. Maybe you got a point there. I'm not being a jerk. I just, okay. You know what I mean. So she worked for the Beacon, and then so let's get your point is that somebody that worked for a long time for St. Louis Public Radio shouldn't be writing a story about the business decisions of St. Louis Public Radio, and to claim that voice is independent is disingenuous. That's your whole point. Thank you so much, John. Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, we don't need to belabor that. I don't think much more. Okay. But I would disagree with you in that I think that Jo would be able to write it pretty objectively. That just might be a point of contention about you and I. So your point, though, Brad, was on Monday, Jo, and I think there was one other co-reporter on that piece, wrote a piece that documented the St. Louis Public Radio going independent, no longer being a part of UMSL, and also, anecdotally, KCUR in Kansas City separating from UMKC. So that was the status. And as we discussed on Tuesday, you and I had a mini dispute, and that I think there's no way the UM Board of Curators is not going to get $1 million, $2 million, whatever the fair market value is for the licenses. And you say, I bet they just give it away.
Okay.
Right? So that's the status.
Yes.
And then you followed up. Let's pick up the story with the action, but we'll cut out the shoe leather, as movie directors say. No shoe leather. But you get in touch via Jason Rosenbaum, connected you with the spokesperson for St. Louis Public Radio.
He's your buddy.
And then you said to that woman, go ahead.
Okay, he's your buddy, and I don't want to get him in the middle. I texted him yesterday. I said, Jason, can you give me who the official spokesperson is for KWMU? And he gave me an email address, and I emailed her. But let me just say this before I go any further than that. Okay, in business, and John would know this very well, because he's probably gone through this with his professional career with Monsanto. If Monsanto is interested in buying XYZ Sprayer Corporation, which has a special sprayer that puts out a special dust of Roundup, which makes it more effective, they start by having negotiations. And then when they have negotiations, they execute what they call a LOI, letter of intent. Correct, John?
That's right, yeah, or even a document of understanding, yeah, right. A letter of intent that lays out the basic general agreement that's going to happen.
A letter of intent or an MOI, memorandum of understanding, okay? And typically that says, Company A, you have such and such and such and such. We want to take such and such and such and such, procure such and such from you, and we're willing to give X, Y, and Z, which is usually money or some kind of other consideration or stock or something like that. Am I getting to the point,
John?
You're
right, Brad. Yeah.
Okay, so I find this lady's name, and her name is Madalyn Painter, and Madalyn spelled Madalyn. And what's interesting is I look on her signature block, and where's her signature block? It says here that she is the Director of Marketing and Digital Media, and after her name it has MSW. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that Master of Social Work? Isn't that what an MSW is?
No, Master of Silly Words.
Master of Silly Words.
Yeah, and according to her bio on St. Louis Public Radio website, she got her Master's of Social Work from St. Louis University.
Okay, so I said, hey, Madalyn, thanks for your prompt reply. We're not a publication. When I initially responded to her, she says, give me your questions. And what publication is this? I said, we're not a publication. We're a radio station, KSLQ. Question number 1, how much are the Friends of KWMU paying the university for the broadcast license? Question number 2, how much are the Friends of KWMU paying the university for the current broadcast equipment? Question number 3, is the KMST license, which is the University of Missouri Rolla, or the old that they used to be KMNR and now it's KMST, and is the KMST license and equipment included in this transaction? And the reason for that is they now operate that radio station. When you listen to KWMU, you actually listen to a TriCast. They're broadcasting not only in St. Louis, they're broadcasting, I don't know the frequency in
all right, we got it.
In Rolla, and then my fourth question was, is the WQUB station included in this transaction? WQUB is licensed to Quincy, Illinois, and I think that used to be part of Quincy College or something like that, and the University of Missouri took that over. And fifth question, will KWMU remain at its current location? And she responds back that her response is, we're at the beginning of a 3-year process with the details to be determined in the months ahead. STLPR's current location Grand Center remains in place. Future decisions about facilities and operational needs will be determined by UMSL and STLPR station management and following the transition, the nonprofit. So in other words, the UMSL, STLPR, and the Friends of KWMU are involved in this. And then her last paragraph is, the licenses for KMST and WQUB will also be transferred to the Friends of KWMU, Inc. as part of the St. Louis Public Radio. They're getting 3 radio stations, John, not 1, not 3. So I send her back, essentially say, thanks, but I don't think you answered my question. Is the University of Missouri giving, and I put in big caps, the licenses and equipment to the Friends of KWMU, or is the Friends of KWMU buying the assets? And if so, what is the purchase price? And she says, again, those details have not been determined yet. John,
and that's where we left it, right?
You're going to go to a car dealer, and you're going to buy a car. And you walk in, and you say, how much is that car? And the guy says, not determined yet. and you say, well, I'd like to buy this car. How much is it? We're not sure yet. Okay, what would you do?
Well, now in that case, I would walk out. But can I make the opposite side of this argument, Brad?
I once again, John, I'm not trying to be right. I'm just trying to say, give us an answer, because once again, we have a situation where we have the President of the United States essentially showing all this government waste. I'm saying, and I still say, they are going to give this to these people here in St. Louis. They're going to give 3 radio station licenses, which, as I told you, I could make a call this morning after I got off the air. I could call a couple of different operators of these religious stations and say, hey, by the way, University of Missouri is getting rid of their radio stations. They're getting rid of this, and I don't know if you know this or not, there's 2 radio stations in Kansas City as well. It's KCUR, plus they bought another one, which was Liberty College in Liberty, Missouri. So they have 2 stations over there, which I would imagine is probably the same deal. I could call one of these religious broadcasts and they say, thanks, Brad, we'll contact the University of Missouri. We want to pay cash for those stations. And when I say cash, they have cash. They could write a check for those stations. Even if the check was 7, 8 figures, they could write a check for those stations.
I believe you, Brad. So here's the thing. Let's go back to your email, though, and your inquiry, which is a very direct question of, are you going to give, you being KWMU, are you going to get these for free from UMSL, or is the University of Missouri board going to sell them? Brad, Madalyn Painter can't give you an answer that she doesn't have. So let's start there. And secondly, I'll harken back to one of the last big deals that I worked on. We at Bayer were divesting, and this is all done and this is all public now. We were divesting a piece of the business that was worth I don't know how many millions it was worth, but we were selling a chunk of the business. And so early on, we didn't want to paint ourselves into a corner by saying, hey, we're going to get rid of this specific asset for this amount of money. You get this, Brad. We weren't going to say, hey, there's going to be an approximate value of this, because if we ended up not getting that in the negotiation, then on the next earnings call, people could be like, whoa, you guys said that you were going to get at least 30 to 40 million. Why'd you guys give it away for 10? So I guess my point is, Brad, St. Louis Public Radio doesn't know how much they're going. Friends of St. Louis Public Radio doesn't know how much they're going to be on the hook for these licenses. And I doubt that there's even been a negotiation between the Board of Curators and Friends of St. Louis Public Radio that even states that there will be an exchange of money for the license. You get what I'm saying? So I guess my point is, certainly Ms. Painter can't give you an answer to a question if the answer doesn't exist.
I'm saying that the answer does exist, because if once, see, here we go again. How did this start? How did this whole thing start? How did it happen on both sides of the state? Because on this side of the state, we have a group called St. Louis Friends of KWMU Incorporated, okay? That's not the group in Kansas City. There had to be
2 different groups. Well, and so that's a fair question, Brad. What if someone gave a sunshine request to the University of Missouri Board of Curators that said, hey, we'd like to see communication regarding the sale of KCUR and affiliated stations, along with KWMU and affiliated stations. We want any email correspondence between this group of people at the Board of Curators, and then you could probably determine how that came about.
But
maybe that's your next sunshine request, Brad.
I've done a few of those in my time. I could tell you a story. Once I had a situation where I was trying to find. I went to a particular municipality, which I won't name, Washmo, and I was trying to get business licenses, which in most municipalities, if you walk in the door, now it's on most websites. This is back in the day before they posted stuff on websites. Most municipalities would give you their business licenses, and lots of people would request them, because you would find out who's going to put in a new store, that kind of stuff, and you would call them up and say, hey, I can do your concrete work for you, that kind of stuff. The contractors live and die for these kind of leads, okay? So I went to this particular municipality, which I won't mention, Washmo, and talk to the clerk, and she says, I'm sorry, I can't give those to you. I go, why can't? She says, well, we just can't. And I go, why not? She goes, you have to talk to the city administrator. So I go upstairs to the city administrator, and he says to me, why do you want these? He says, are you going to try to sell them advertising in your station? I said, yes. And he says, file a sunshine law request. And I'm going, dude, don't be a jerk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he wanted to stand in the way of you and getting that information.
Well, but once again, it's public information. It would be like going to the library and they have the doors locked and you go, well, can I go in the library? No, because there's books in here you might read. Well, isn't that the idea behind the library? Well, yes, but we don't want you just looking at them for free. You might get some crazy, weird ideas. Yeah, but isn't that what the library's for? You know what I mean?
I would just say that I'm sure there's teams that are looking at this on both sides, University of Missouri, Friends of St. Louis Public Radio, also the KCUR side. And I would say that it's just a part of the negotiation. And I would still stick to the point, Brad, that I doubt they know exactly what the money's going to be, what the financial piece is going to look like. And Miss Painter certainly can't tell you something that she doesn't know. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but she's telling you what she could tell you. She's got a really good document on her desktop that she pulls from when she gets questions. She cuts and pastes it and she responds, and she does the best she can with the information that she's given. And she's not going to give you any more than that. She's not going to have well, hey, pal, listen, I'm not supposed to say this, but it's probably going to be between $1 and $2 million. But I think you've gotten all you can get from Miss Painter. But
you know what? She's giving me stress, and you know what I need? I need a social worker. So she's got a master's in social.
You do need a little bit of social. Now, I'm just disappointed she didn't go to the Brown School of Social Work at Washington University. She could have learned there. She could have also learned. Maybe she could have gotten some piercings. She could have gotten some tattoos. I'm looking at her profile picture. She doesn't have any visible facial tattoos. So that's really something that they miss out on.
Now, once again, on her signature block, it said MSW, and in parentheses, it was she and her. And I went and modified my signature block, and I put MA, BA, and in parentheses, I put dude and dudeness.
Well, and then you had a link to a certain West County Chamber of Commerce. I feel maybe she would fit right in. They could join the Brad Annoys Us Club. I'm with you at every step, Brad. I just want you to know that. You're wrong about Madalyn Painter, and you should leave her alone. But in other kinds of situations, I want you to know I'm on your side, Brad.
Well, but see, John, the crazy thing about this is that the deal. The deal is they're going to get this for free. That's the deal.
They are not going to get it for free.
John, they're going to get it for free. Trust me, they're going to get it for free.
We should have a friendly bet about this.
But why?
I will give you, let's put up a membership to, let's say Cottleville Weldon Spring Chamber of Commerce. Let's put up a membership fee of who's going to be right about this. I'm so confident that I would even put that kind of money up.
John, but okay, one other thing about this before we go any further. She says this transition is going to take 3 years. Okay, what in the hell is going to take 3 years? Okay, I mean, the University Board of Curators could get together tomorrow and say, okay, we want the Friends of KWMU to write us a check for $5 million, and they have the station. Hey, Friends of KWMU, pony up $5 million. Okay, Friends of KWMU got the money. Here's the money. Sign the agreement. It's a done deal. File the application with the FCC.
But here's what takes 3 years, Brad. They got to print a lot of tote bags. They got to print a lot of scarves. Like, these fundraising drives don't come about overnight.
I can hear it now. Oh, yeah. We're the Friends of KWMU, and we're trying to buy the radio station, and we need $42.3 million, and we need you to buy not 1, not 100, but 1,000 tote bags. Yes, you can stand on the corner and give away in downtown St. Louis. If you can find 1,000 people on the streets of downtown St. Louis, you can stand in the corner and give away our tote bags, and the people will love them. They'll love them. Matter of fact, the homeless people can wad them up and use them as pillows. They'll be great for sleeping on market, right? Is that the way it'd go?
Right now, there is a sizable, let me rephrase that. Right now, there's a real estate agent in St. Charles County who's laying in bed saying, thank God Brad's not talking about me. He finally left me alone this week. Then she X's out of the live stream and goes back to bed.
Is she also a radio station operator? Is that who that person is?
Oh, I don't know, Brad. She could have any profession, She could be a a political commentator. She could buy ads on 97.1. I don't know, Brad.
Is she at the zoo? I think I saw it at the zoo. Isn't she?
Oh, Brad, come on.
No,
hippo jokes are so 2024.
No, she's a rhino. I saw her at the zoo.
Oh, a rhino. Sorry, I thought you were going the hippo route.
No, I saw her at the zoo. She's a rhino. Okay, here we go. We got to take a break.